going on, 49er faithful? It's the one and only Wayne Breezie bringing you that live 49ers faithful content right here. We are live day 2 with the reactions to the 49ers in rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft. They had 3 picks left in the top 100 after crushing round 1 by drafting, that one and only defensive tackle or defensive edge, out of Georgia. All right. And then in this particular round, they went in all defense. We got an all defensive day 1, day 2 draft. And I have never been more ecstatic because when you look at the 49ers, we did plenty of episodes. The Niners have lost several defensive pieces. They weren't able to retain them in free agency or whatever or whatnot, or they had to just move on from some, let some go due to contractual situations. And the Niners decided to go younger, cheaper, and I would just say overall they're going to be better at some point with this draft. This is the draft where you build the defense. You brought in Robert Saleh and you said, Saleh, I'm going to give you the keys to the car, grab the pieces that you want, load up the car, and let's get rolling for the 2025 season. I love everything that the Niners have done so far, even a couple of pieces that may have had you scratching your head. Let's go with the first pick. We talked about him yesterday when we got the kid from Georgia. I really love what he's going to be able to do. And I think this is what set up the San Francisco 49ers when they drafted Mykel Williams out of Georgia, because you set up the edge and then you build the rest of the line and then you stack it. So you get me edge, tackle, linebacker, nickel, corner, safety, whatever you want to label Upton Stout at. All right. And so that's what the Niners did. They built it in layers. They got their best player in each layer of the defense. They built the trenches up front. Then they addressed the second level with the linebacker. We're going to talk about Nick Martin. And then they addressed the secondary with drafting Upton Stout with the 100th pick. So it started on day 1. Day 2, defensive tackle. Let's talk about my man, Alfred Collins out of Texas. We're talking the big 320-pound defensive tackle. The kid is big. I mean, 6'6", that's pretty daggone big in my opinion. 332 pounds, 34 and 5/8 inch arms. This kid has a crazy wingspan as well. That means on day 1, they drafted a kid with almost 34.5 inch arms, and then they get a defensive tackle predominantly like with the same arm length. I think Williams was like 34 or 34 and 3/8. And now Alfred Collins is 34 and 5/8. That's amazing. All right. Now you got 2 guys with 80 plus wingspans on your defensive line. There won't be a lot of missed tackles out there. That's how I'm looking at it. You're not going to get tons of missed tackles. Not at all. All right. Now, you look at what he's able to do. All right. He's not your super duper explosive guy out there as a defensive tackle, but he moves very well out there as a defensive tackle. All right. So no, he doesn't run super fast. He doesn't have a fast 40 time, or he has a pretty decent, I think, 10-yard split. But overall, and let's look up his 10-yard split. Let's see if I can get Alfred Collins 10-yard split. Alfred Collins 10-yard split. I don't think he didn't 174. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. 174 10-yard split. The fastest 10-yard split at the NFL Combine was 171, and I believe that was by Josh Connerly. But 174 for a 6'6". Oh, you sign me up. What are we doing here? I just want to put this in my notes. 174 10-yard split. That is amazing. That means in 10-yard bursts, this kid can move. I think Trent Williams is like a 169. So 174 from a defensive tackle position, I think that's pretty stout. Again, the highest was 169. Excuse me, not 171, 169 from Jared Harrison Hunt from SMU. His 10-yard split was a 169, tied with Tyrion Ingram Dawkins out of where? Georgia. He had a 169 split. The Niners needed to find a way to plug the middle. When you look at Alfred Collins, the question is, what does he do well? Well, he's a run-stuffing defensive tackle. That's his specialty, and you're not going to want to change that for nobody. He's not going to be a guy that's going to bring you a lot of pressure. He doesn't have the high pass rush win rate. Okay, that's just not who he is. But He is a good run stuffing defensive tackle. All right. And that's what you're going to get. What did the Niners struggle with? They struggled with stopping the run. Pass rush win rate. They struggled when stopping the run. All right. And that is to me like first and foremost, you got a defensive end that can set the edge. Now you got the tackle inside that's going to eat up space at 300 plus pounds and is going to be able to stop the run. Now, looking up Alfred Collins, you look up his stats and you say to yourself, why wasn't he higher up? Why wasn't he like just greater a greater defensive tackle prospect? Well, he was the best defensive tackle prospect coming out of Texas this year, in my opinion. He played in 593 snaps. All right, so he played in he played a lot of snaps out there. He did do some rotation with I think Vernon Brofton and who just got drafted as well. But when you look at what he was able to do out there, he had some really good games. You can see his best game was against Arkansas, a good game against Vanderbilt. And the key is is this guy generating pressure? And yeah, he got 18 pressures. I'll take 18 pressures from a big guy on 593 snaps. And most of his snaps were based off of pass rush. He even had to drop in coverage on a snap. That's why I said when you watch him on film, he moves a lot quicker than he probably runs. And that's probably that 10-yard split. He can run quick and burst. He's fast and burst, right? So, boom, only one sack far as the production, and it might have been a half a sack. You know how PFF grades. 17 hurries, 6 batted down passes. Let me see if I can move myself over here. 6 batted down passes. All right, now let's get to this part. See, so this big fella batted the ball down 6 times around the line of scrimmage. I'm telling you, in the trenches is when you win and lose games. 6 batted down passes, 38 tackles, 26 assisted tackles, 2 missed tackles. Look at that missed tackle percentage rate, 3.0. 27 stops. This guy is getting you tackles for loss. You're not going to be able to run on him. That's what you want. I want them stops to be high up out there when I'm looking to when these running backs are trying to run, whether they're running up the middle, where they're trying to get to the outside. When you get the guy that can set the edge outside and the running back can't get to the outside, a running back's going to look to cut back on the inside. And you're going to have a big 326, 325-pound guy coming after you. Hold on one second. I was looking for my books. You're going to have a big 6'6", 360, 320, 32-pound guy coming after you. And that is, in my opinion, something super cool. Now, looking at Alfred Collins, I think he's going to provide the 49ers with several things. We already talked about his size. He has an explosive first step. One of the things that Chris Kocurek loves the most is the first step. The first step, how quick are you when that ball is snapped and to get off? One of my guys that I was super high on last year coming out of the draft that I met at the Senior Bowl was Braden Fisk. I thought Braden Fisk had the quickest get off and first step that I've seen in a long time. Chris Kocurek has not had a guy with a quick first step in a long time from the defensive tackle position. He's been dealing with the guys that he's been dealing with and trying to make it work. But now Robert Saleh, Chris Kocurek, they're going to get a guy with an explosive first step. His specialty, again, is in run defense. Good luck trying to run on this young fella. Like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Now, he does have a 12.6% pass rush win rate. And the areas that he needs to work in, believe it or not, pass rushing. We talked about it. He's not your pass rusher. But that doesn't mean he can't rush the passer. That doesn't mean he can't win one-on-ones. That doesn't mean he's not going to get those opportunities to win the one-on-one. So Alfred Collins is going to be a problem for the 49ers. I could see the rotation now. Jordan Elliott, Alfred Collins, Kalia Davis. Like I'm starting to envision the big picture right here. And some of those guys may not make this roster. Evan Anderson is another one that I feel like is going to be in that rotation in the middle. And I think the key for the 49ers defense is give me a guy with great get off, great speed burst from the quick first step. And so I can have these guys kind of like rotate them in and out of that lineup. I think keeping these guys fresh as possible will allow them to continue to stop the run, not for just 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, but all 4 quarters. By the time the 49ers got to the fourth quarter, that defensive front was so much out of gas. they would run all over us in those later quarters. That's what happened to the San Francisco 49ers. First two quarters, they were stopping the run. Second two quarters, the second half of the football game, they couldn't stop the run. So they're going to get a guy with great energy, in my opinion. I had a second to third round grade on him. And guess what? He went in the second round to the San Francisco 49ers. All right. So if there's anything he needs to work on, let's get his pass rush moves. He doesn't play with a low pad level, and I think that's good because at 6'6", that kind of concerns me. Eric Armstead was 6'6", 6'7". I think he's the same height as DeForest Buckner, 6'6", 6'7", if I'm not mistaken. Javon Kinlaw is another big guy, 6'6", 6'7", and he does fit that frame that the Niners do like at that size. But the thing that I love about Alfred Collins is he doesn't play with a high pad level. His pad level is still low. And I think that's why he's able to be really good in shedding blocks with his hands, getting off those blocks, filling in those gaps so that these linebackers can play downhill and kind of fill in the gaps and make the tackles. He's a run defender. I like to call him a run soaker. He soaks up the block so well, and he's strong as an ox. So you're not going to be able to push him all over the football field. That's the one thing that I love about him. All right, let's get to this second pick, because the second pick was a surprise pick, in my opinion, but I am so freaking happy with this particular player, because if he's healthy, if the Niners are right about his medical evaluation, linebacker with the 75th pick of the 2025 NFL draft, pardon me, the 49ers select linebacker Nickolas Martin, all right, out of Oklahoma State. Now, when you look at Nickolas Martin, you're going to be like, what, who, why, when, where, why? And if you did a lot of mock drafts, you were like, why is he drafted to mock to go into seventh rounds, a lot of seventh rounds, maybe an undrafted guy? But you got to go back to his 2024 NFL season. That is the season where he kind of struggled. He got hurt, so he missed seven. I think he only played in 7 games, if I'm not mistaken. But the injury definitely set him back. That injury definitely set him back. And so looking at Nickolas Martin, I put him on. I think he was one of my sleeper picks. I have a video on YouTube talking about sleeper picks, and I think I had him as a sleeper pick. In this particular draft, I might not have, but I feel like I did. Because what I liked about him was his speed. When he got to the NFL Combine, he ran very well. We're talking a guy that's 5'11", almost 6 feet, 221, undersized guy. But he ran a 4.53 with a 1.54 split. All right, with a 38-inch vert, 10-foot, 3-inch broad jump, and he bench pressed 26 pounds. Now, he met with the 49ers at the Senior Bowl, and then he also met with the 49ers at the NFL Combine, and then he had a personal Zoom meeting with Johnny Holland, the linebackers coach from the San Francisco 49ers. And so, no, he wasn't a top 30 visit, because they met with him already twice or 3 times prior, and I knew he was the guy after the combine, because when John Lynch was at the Senior Bowl and the combine, but I knew he was the pick after the combine. I believe when they met him last, and then John Lynch left. I knew he was going to be on the 49ers radar at that moment. But let's talk about Nickolas Martin, linebacker, Oklahoma State. You can say he's 6 feet if you want. All right. 47 tackles, 28 solo tackles, and 1 sack. And again, he did that in limited games. Remember, I talked about that. Peachy, what's going on? Let's go. So far, so good. We got 7 picks left to go in the draft. But let's go ahead and look at Nick Martin very quickly and see what I was talking about. His 2023 year was the year he should have been drafted. Like, if that was the year you were basing everything off of, kudos, because that's the year where he literally crushed it. But again, he only played in 5 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. He missed 7 games due to an injury. All right. And that it is what it is, right? It is what it is. A lot of people had him projected going as an undrafted guy. I had him projected going as a 7th round pick, but the Niners drafted him in the 3rd round. I feel like this was a reach, but I do know healthy, this is not a reach. Okay. So healthy, not a reach. Unhealthy, you know what I mean? So, like, it all depends on the semantics of how you're looking at it. But even in his season where he was injured. You can see he finished with 9 total pressures, a sack, 4 hits, 4 hurries. All right, 38 tackles, 11 assisted, 9 missed tackles, 25 run stops, a forced fumble made. He could drop back in coverage. You can see he was targeted 16 times. He only allowed 10 receptions for 72 yards. Didn't give up any TDs. Does have a PBU. Let's go and check out what he did in 2023, because this is why he was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. You look at 2023, you can see the snap differential, right? So rookie season, 119 snaps. His sophomore year, he played the whole season. 930 snaps, 430 on run defense, 402 in coverage, 98 as a pass rusher. All right. So don't never mind the grade. Look at the production. We're talking 30 total pressures, 6 of those were sacks, 8 hits, 16 hurries. Then he had 102 solo tackles with 37 assisted tackles. That's 139 tackles that season, 66 freaking run stops, a forced fumble made. He was targeted 30 times, gave up 23 receptions. All right. He did give up 3 touchdowns that year, but he also had 2 interceptions that year as well. This kid, Nickolas Martin, is your next version of Dre Greenlaw. I think he's faster than Dre Greenlaw. I can tell you right now, Dre Greenlaw's 40 time. Let's see if we can look that up. Dre Greenlaw's 40-yard dash if he ran it. All right, so let's see if I can look that up real quick for you. Oh no, he's a little bit slower than Dre Greenlaw. He said that they said that his combine time was a 4.47. His unofficial time at the pro day and Arkansas's pro day was a 4.53, which is where Nick Martin ran at the combine, 4.53s. But the sideline speed is there. You can see that he played the mic, he played the weak side in his junior year. And this is what I think they're going to utilize. I think he's going to come in. He's going to compete against D. Winters for that weak side spot. And this is what you got. You got the competition. I think you got Jalen Graham and you have Tatum Bethune that can compete for the strong side spot. I think Curtis Robinson will back up Fred Warner at the Mike spot. Will they go with 6 linebackers this year? Man, this is going to be fun. And they got another linebacker on their roster as well. So this is going to be interesting. The Niners could go with 6 linebackers if they see that, they want to have rotation for each one, starter, backup, starter, backup, starter, backup. That's how I'm looking at it. But Nick Martin, he's exceptional. He's a tackle. He doesn't miss a lot of tackles out there. I'm just looking at my notes. And he has a high football IQ. All right. This kid knows exactly what's going on the football field. He knows exactly when to drop in coverage. He knows exactly when to break for the ball, when it's to run. And, just looking at one of his interviews that he had, he said one of the things that he loves to do is punch the ball out. He said he loves to punch the ball out. He loves to punch after the football. And he said he learned from Fred Warner. Like, that's something that you definitely want these players. They're watching their favorite players. Even when I was at the Senior Bowl and I met with players like Darius Alexander, I remember meeting with him. He said that one of his favorite players was Nick Bosa, and he would love to play with Nick Bosa. When I met with Demetrius Knight, he loved Fred Warner. So, like, you could tell that they watch. The pros may not watch the collegiate players because they just don't have the time to watch, but these collegiate players definitely do look up to the players in the pros, and they do model some of their game, in my opinion, after the pros. I truly do believe that. You know what I mean? I truly do believe that. So Alfred Collins, we got first with pick 43, Nickolas Martin. We got with pick 75. And then let's talk about the final pick of the night. This is another player that I thought was I didn't think he would fall to the 49ers, but early on in the draft process, because this is what I love to do. I really love the draft. If you love the draft, let me get a hell yeah. Well, at least the process of the draft. In the draft process, I was looking for a player that played like a dog as a movable piece on the defense. And Upton Stout was a player that fell onto my radar. And then when he fell onto my radar and I got to the Senior Bowl, I was able to look to get, a little bit up close, on him. to see how he plays. Now he's a smaller guy. I feel like he's 5'9", 182, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look him up. 5'8", 5'8.5", believe it or not. 181 is where they have him, but he is fast. And when the San Francisco 49ers said they wanted to get faster, this is it. So they wanted to get younger, faster, and cheaper, right? Cheaper meaning draft picks. So it's super simple, right? You get younger, faster, and cheaper. But what I like about him, number one, is his versatility. And a lot of people were talking about Andrew Makuba, Jahdae Barron, and I feel like he kind of gives you that cross between Makuba. If you put Makuba and Jahdae Barron together, you're gonna get a player like Upton Stout. All right, you could see that he plays outside. He plays the inside. He can play the strong safety, so he can play in the box. And even with his little frame, he's not afraid to tackle. Okay, he's not afraid to tackle. 44 tackles on the year, 14 assisted tackles, only 5 missed tackles. 26 of those are run stops. Okay, and that's just his tackling ability. That was one of the things that I love. You can see he played 633 snaps. As far as pressures, he's not going to sit there and be the guy that's going to necessarily blitz, but who knows what Robert Saleh is going to do with a 4-4 guy. He would be literally one of the fastest players in the 49ers secondary. He would be one of the fastest players in the 49ers secondary. I really do like that they went with a versatile piece that can play corner, that can play safety. So once you know, here's what I'm learning about the 49ers. Once they know you are versatile, you're on their radar. Once they know you're versatile, you're on their radar. All right. His hip fluidity and his footwork is exceptional. Like it's really it doesn't need any refining. That means he's really good in coverage. All right. That's what that means. That means he's able to get his hips and move his hips without generating contact and things like that. That's another thing that you want to check with these pass coverage guys, like penalties. Like I look at that number, 4 penalties on the year for him, which is not bad. So like one, at least, and at least it was like one in a game, right? Like it wasn't multiple penalties in a game. So that means he's out there learning from whatever mistakes he made to get the penalty. He's learning from not high in interceptions, not even high in PBUs, right? But just really good in coverage. I think that's what you're going to get. Last year, they drafted Renardo Green in the 2nd round, and he was high in PBUs. This year, so to me, last year, Renardo Green is going to be the replacement for, in my opinion, he's the replacement for Charvarius Ward. I think the San Francisco 49ers are missing their newer version of Jimmy Ward. And when you look at Upton Stout, he gives you Jimmy Ward vibes from that era as far as his ability to be versatile on the football field. He plays big like a Brian Branch from Detroit or Gardner Johnson. He plays big like that. This is what you get from this little small power punch dude. Like he's gonna be there to look to knock you out. All right. So you might not get the PBU, but you're not going to get a completed pass either because you're probably not going to throw his way. And again, this is the nickelback. This is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about him playing in the slot. You can see 355 snaps of his has been in the slot, 71 outside. And so this allows you to really say that, okay, Renardo Green, okay, Diamador Lenore, you're my outside corners. We rocking with y'all, baby. All right. And now you brought in a guy that can predominantly play in the slot. You're not trying to convert an outside guy to an inside guy. You did, hear me out, and let me know if you agree or disagree with me. But the San Francisco 49ers kind of took a page, in my opinion, all right, out of Washington, the Washington Commanders book. And Washington drafted Mike Sainristil. He started off as a nickel guy. He was drafted as a nickel cornerback. He played nickel cornerback for the University of Michigan. He played in there, and he won the outside job. He had to go play outside, so he ended up playing outside, and he was one of the premier rookies last year. The 49ers may have their version of that just having a football IQ, having a knack for the football. So footwork is great. He's super competitive out there on the football field. You can't teach that stuff. And again, his versatility is through the roof. And I think the only knock you really have on him is that he's undersized. I think the undersized knock is that I think the arms are only 30 inches. That could be a knock. Just looking at the physical traits, that can be a knock. Size, weight, plays big, like a little power punch guy, packs a lot of power, but those physical traits could come into some type of a play. You know what I mean? And I don't really think he struggles with tackling. I think he's a really good tackler out there on the football field. So just overall, like to recap what the San Francisco 49ers did, they definitely went in the trenches and, they addressed their needs. That was the poll question. Did the 49ers address their needs on day 2? And the answer was yes. I really do. They went defensive line, trench, then they just went layered. They layered it back. Trenches, second level, secondary. Trenches, second level, secondary, right? So defensive tackle, linebacker, corner. Boom. Corner. Boom. How would you grade the 49ers on day 1? You gave them an A. And now how would you grade the San Francisco 49ers on day 2? I'm curious to know what you guys think. Now, overall, I'm going to do my grading by letters. And when I do this, that means that I'm going to total the 3 up and then divide by 3 because there were 3 picks. All right. So I'm going to give the defensive tackle grade because on the board, they were running scarce on defensive tackles. I think we got sniped for TJ Sanders. I think Sanders was somebody that the Niners were probably high up on. And I think their next best tackle available was Alfred Collins. And this is not a shot at Alfred Collins. I just feel like the San Francisco 49ers probably thought that they were going to land TJ Sanders, but he got sniped earlier in the second round. And so I think the Niners were like, you know what? There could be a run. Now, they did not draft Darius Alexander, one of their top 30 visit guys, which was kind of making me scratch my head. You brought the kid in, but when you look at Darius Alexander, you looked at his age, he's going to be turning 25 when the season starts. I don't think the Niners wanted to go the older route. I don't even know why they brought him in for a meeting. He did get drafted, though, to a team. But at the end of the day, the Niners wanted to go with the young player, crazy freakish ability, wingspan, arm length. These offensive you better come correct if you're an offensive lineman, guard. You better have great arms because this guy is going to be able to move you. And I like that, right? I like that. He's kind of like hard to move. So I would give the first pick an A minus maybe. So that would be my first pick. Second pick, out there, the linebacker. Now, I like the position. No, I like the position, but I thought they would go with players that I had higher up. I'm going to give the linebacker a B minus. Then that doesn't mean it can't like trend up over time. I just feel like at 75, I think that was a big reach for Nickolas Martin. Even though I like the kid, I feel like they could have got him later in the draft and addressed another player with the top 100 picks. So that's a B minus. So I got A minus. I got a 90 and an 80 so far. All right. And then to close out the draft, they addressed it with a versatile piece as a secondary. Right now, I can see that they're giving him comps to like K'Wan Williams. This is Robert Saleh drafting. I said Jimmy Ward. People say K'Wan Williams because if you use him in the slot, only K'Wan Williams. If you're versatile with him, Jimmy Ward. Who did Robert Saleh coach? Both of those players. And both of those players were dynamic for the San Francisco 49ers during their tenure here. We've got the outside guys, and now we got the slot guy, we got the nickel guy, and I really don't think there's anybody going to compete with him there. So I would give that a B plus. I think that's a B plus. So I got a 90, 89, and I said a B minus and 80. So let me do my grade total up. I'm an old school teacher, so That's how I do my grading. All right. So I said I got a 90. Where's my calculator? So 90 plus 89 plus 80 divided by 3. All right, so I gave them a B, a 86 on today. Peachy gave them a B as well. All right, so A on day one, A on day one, day two, a B. All right, so that's what I got. So far I got a 95. So far the Niners 86 plus 95 so far. Right now, the Niners are looking at it A minus so far overall. Now, Peachy had a question out there. Definitely want to answer questions that are in the live chat, and I appreciate those. I mean, excuse me, Adrian has a question. I saw a Peach, so I'm like, who is the whatever. Adrian has a question. Why are we drafting hurt players? Well, that's a great question. I think what happens is, for me, when I think about the San Francisco 49ers, I say to myself, if you were going to draft a hurt player, why did you pass up on a premier corner like Will Johnson and settled for the nickel corner? And I think I get it now. Maybe Will Johnson, even though maybe they weren't in need of an outside corner. Maybe they weren't in need. I don't think that the medicals of Will Johnson is the reason why the 49ers didn't draft him, but that's what I thought until they made their last pick. And then when I look at Upton Stout, I say, well, Upton Stout is a nickel corner. He can play safety, but he's a nickel corner. Will Johnson would have just been an outside corner, and you would have had a log jam at the outside corners positions and playing Diamador Lenore, forcing him to play inside when he's really your outside guy. So I think they really zoned in on getting a nickel guy to play inside. As far as Nick Martin, you're talking about the injuries to Nick Martin. I would go with the simple fact that he's recovered. He's fully recovered. His injury didn't require surgery, for one. Number two, he's fully recovered from the injury because he ran. If he didn't run, then we can kind of start questioning the injuries. But he ran. He ran a 4.53 at the NFL Combine, and he ran his ass right out of the Combine into the 49ers draft room, right? Like that's what he did. So I don't think his injuries, Adrian, are going to hinder him. And the rest of the players that we drafted didn't have injury situations, unless you're talking about Michael Williams, who had the high ankle sprain. I mean, that's just a high ankle sprain. That could be just from playing on, you know, overextending, and next thing you know, boom, 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 you got a high ankle sprain, but he's fully recovered from that as well. So nothing too severe with the injuries. They didn't draft players that had like major surgery or things like that. So that's a bonus, but I just really feel like they went with that particular player. And yes, we definitely like multi-role players. We like players that are versatile. Can they play more than one position? And do they play it at a high level? You know what I'm saying? And you gave it a B plus for right now. So overall, is your overall grade a B plus? That's pretty cool. I think the Niners right now are killing the draft, and solving their needs. So I did a show earlier. Do they go best player available, or do they go with their biggest needs? And the Niners have continued to go with their biggest needs. And that's what I love about them. They're looking at their needs, but they reached, in my opinion, they only reached for one player, and that would be that linebacker. I thought that they could have went with Paul out of Ole Miss. They could have went with Jeffrey Bossa out of Oregon. They're kind of undersized too, but the Niners wanted to go with a guy with that speed, that sideline to sideline speed. When you look at Chris Paul Jr., he's not as fast. When you look up Jeffrey Bossa, he wasn't as fast. And so the Niners wanted to get faster. They got a 4.3, 4.53 linebacker and a 4.44 corner on day two. Tomorrow is going to be exciting because they're going to really add all the seasoning, the bells and whistles to kind of soak up this draft. Expect the Niners to probably go offense, get them a tight end. I think Jalen Conyers will be the tight end. I think wide receivers, they're going to have their choices at wide receivers. Alec Ayomanor sounds like he's going to be the wide receiver that the Niners are going to draft out of Stanford. So you're going to get Alec Ayomanor. I hope that they address the defense again. David Walker is available, edge rusher out of Central Arkansas. You can go CJ West with another interior defensive guy out of Indiana. You can go Aeneas Peoples interior, and I think that's the route that they go because they got the big 320 guy, and then they go get the little 290 guy, and then they really have some fun up the middle with a pass rushing defensive tackle. But CJ West is definitely, to me, should be high on their radar. So there's so many players that they can actually go with on, just starting in round 4. The Niners have 2 picks in round 4, 2 picks in round 5, 0 picks in round 6, and 3 picks in round 7. 3 picks in round 7. I see some of these comments. It's a C, dropped by that 3rd round linebacker. I get it. I guarantee you the injuries are seeping in because you didn't really know much about Nick Martin, but on this show, like on my when I break him down on the Patreon, I'm gonna really focus on. Hopefully, I could get that 2023 film because that's where he was dynamic. And the thing you get from Nick Martin is a tackling monster with sideline to sideline speed. Sandor C. White was a tackling machine in 2023. Which is White is you talking about? I'm confused. Or do you mean Martin? Because if you talk about Martin, Martin was a tackling machine in 2023, 1,000% tackling machine, almost 140 tackles that year. Kyanders, I think that's how you say your name, says we need CJ West. Again, that'll be an excellent round day 3 guy you can add. I think there's still so much value for the San Francisco 49ers. You know what I mean? So much value for the San Francisco 49ers in the later rounds in this draft. Some guys will be special teams players. Don't we need a guard to replace Aaron Banks? Not necessarily, because the 49ers re-signed Ben Barch and they have Spencer Burford, and they may feel like those 2 guys are going to compete for the left guard position. So they may address the guard position. The guard that I have going to them would be Marcus Bowe from Purdue. I think he'll be a nice piece for the San Francisco 49ers if they decide to go with a guard. If they decide to go with a tackle, I really like Logan Brown out of Kansas. So they can still go offensive line and bring in some offensive linemen, in my opinion. You know what I mean? They definitely can. Don't be don't be nervous. The offensive line will still be addressed in this draft. I just think that they wanted to go and retool on the defensive side. Give Robert Saleh some pieces. So a player plays 1 full season and you don't think that's a concern. Well, no. Um, what am I trying to say? It's a concern, but he missed. He only played 5 games his junior season because of an injury. He returned. Well, he didn't come back that season, but he did come back to work out. Now he hasn't been back on the football field to play, but I think when you get a guy that can run this fast, returning from the injury that he returned from, I think just working out alone says, all right, cool. And I think when it's like a lot of players 2024 seasons weren't as great. Just look at some of the players in the draft that got drafted by other teams. Maxwell Hairston had a terrible 2024 season due to injury, but he ran a 4.28 and he went in the first round. Like, some teams are going to reach on some players. I agree that the Niners reached on Nick Martin. I think that they could have probably gotten him in round 5 and he would have probably been the steal of the draft. But what the San Francisco 49ers are doing is they're going after and they're getting their players. They don't give a they're going to get their players. And I like the aggressiveness. It shows that they've been doing their due diligence and doing their homework, and they trust their board. So at the end of the day, is it a reach? Yup. But do you trust your team? Do you trust your Niners? For me, I do. I respect for those that don't. I respect to those that don't. But the kid produced like crazy, and had he came out and was eligible to come out his sophomore year, he would have probably been one of the top linebackers in the draft. When you can tackle like that, and just ask yourself this, right? Let's say I compare him to Carson Schwarzenegger from UCLA. tackling machine in 2024. He didn't do it any other year after that. That kid barely made the field. Matter of fact, he had to walk on to UCLA. So in one season, he did that, and he went in the second round. He was the first pick to the Cleveland Browns, right? Didn't they get Schlesinger, if I'm not mistaken? So it just comes down to, how much do you trust what you see on the tape? That's what it comes down to, in my opinion. But listen, guys, I'll be back on Tuesday to recap the draft and recap what happens on rounds 4 through 7. So make sure you guys are locked in 9 p.m. Eastern time this upcoming Tuesday. I would love to chop it up with you again. Make sure you're following me here as well on Bleacher Report, and you can follow me on YouTube at the WayneBreezie. You guys are the greatest motherfreaking fan base in the world, and I'm here because of you. I'll see y'all next week, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Go freaking faithful.
What's up, faithful? Thanks for watching. Hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and make sure you check out some of the other cool videos.